Hey music fans! As a roadie, I had this great opportunity to tour with all these bands. I wrote a book about my experiences on the road, and it was the #1 new release on Amazon and Bios, and it's now sold millions of copies on Kindle. I'm Joel Roadie, and this is my podcast, Party Like a Rock Star. So on that last version, the last live version that I did there, they announced all the people in the band, and it said Eric Singer. And I was like, is that the Eric Singer from Kiss? And so I didn't say anything because that dude's American, right? So anyway, I just looked it up. It is Eric Singer from Kiss. I wasn't aware that he played with Gary Moore. So for you Gary Moore fans, you're like, duh, idiot. But we all got to learn somewhere. So that's cool. I did like the sound of the drums on the top of the Pops version. They had a wonderful, like aggressive sound to them. It was a very open sound. It was a pop, 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 pop. So I noticed it, but I mentioned the keyboard player over it, didn't I? So I like the keyboard dude from UFO. He did really good on the backing vocals on that 2010 version from Montreux. Anyway, wait a minute. Sorry. Let's jump into this version. This is going to be something cool. This is with the Chieftains. Now, I've been digesting the lyrics a little bit, and it's pretty similar to the Long Black Veil, subject matter-wise, right? And so when I think of Long Black Veil, I actually think of the Chieftains. Remember, they did it with Mick Jagger on one of their albums. I had that as a kid, and God, I liked it so much. I really did. So nothing against the Rolling Stones. I like the Rolling Stones, but Mick Jagger did some really wonderful things outside the Stones that people should listen to a little more often, like that song, Long Black Veil. Anyway, let's jump into this and let's see what we got, and hope it's awesome. This is from 1988, I believe. So let's do this.
There's a young man over here, and he started out in Skid Row with Brush Shields and the late Phil Lynott. Last year he released an album called Wild Frontier, and in that he said about marrying the traditional instruments together with a lot of the electronic gear which has become so popular in the heavy rock scene over the last 10 or 15 years. And we reckon it was one of the first attempts to marry the two different technologies, as it were, and it was very, very successful indeed. Wherever you are at home, turn up your sound for this. Turn up the sound of your television for this. Turn it right up. Don't be afraid of it. Sit well back and turn up the sound. Would you welcome, please, Gary Moore?
So a little bummed because we're only 5.5 minutes left here. So I don't know how much we're going to get of guitar solos. But it's not 4.5 minutes, so let's see what we got.
They came for him one winter's night. Arrested, he was bound. They said there'd been a robbery. His pistol had been found. They marched him to station house. He waited till the dawn. Stayed there to the dark. He knew that he had been wrong. back in his arms again. She'll over the hills and far away. She prays he will return one day. She'll rest the river, weaves the seas. Back in her arms is where he'll be. Over the hills, over the hills and far away. Over the hills, over the hills and far away.
Hey, Paddy, what about that marriage between all that electronic gear, all that fabulous stuff? Do you reckon you're going to do more of that, or what?
No, not any more than what we're sort of at the moment. Gary has happened last year, and he had this little bit of a jig that he thought he'd like some fiddles and pipes and that in. So we went in and put it down and came out in a single that he had. And then they dressed me up in leather, would you believe, for the video. I was like Napoleon gone wrong or something. And this hat and all, it's just dreadful. I saw this thing happening. No motorbike.
That stuff is kind of frowned upon by the traditional devotees.
Well, within it there, he's a great guitarist and a great, tremendous soloist.
Yeah.
And we were having a bash at a few reels there earlier on. So he'd
Good
surprise you.
Good
yeah.
player.
It's got to be a trip when you're standing right there. The main dude of the Chieftains or one of the Chieftains is sitting there talking about you. Even if you're Gary Moore, it's very cool, man. I like this one a huge amount. I really did. I like the end where they're popping their head. It was Neil, right? The keyboard guy, Neil, and Gary. They were in unison. That was very cool. I liked how he switched it up a tiny little bit. I made note of it, but they knew, they had set it up earlier that the Chieftains were going to do a whole little set in between the track. So he changed the way he sang it just a little bit so that they could come in and do their thing. So I knew it was coming because of that. That was exciting. I was listening to Eric Singer's drums again. And that pop, 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 it just sounds really neat. It's like a marching drum to me, and I like that a lot. I just think this song's super, super awesome. I think a lot of me enjoying it so much, too, is there's so much neatness. Sorry, not the best word, but for having like guys like the Chieftains next to Gary Moore and marrying these two wonderful things together. Now, unfortunately, they're all passed away. It sucks, but this was a really neat performance. This was something special, and it made me think right now. The bands that we're going to jump into, I did find one more. There's Gary. I hope you guys are cool with this, but there's Gary performing this track again in 1987 in Tokyo. So I'm going to do that last. And then I'll jump into Nightwish, I think. But I'm wondering, because these performances are so very good, what was it that made Nightwish, Dan Vask, Tama Johansson cover this particular song? Which performance was it that made them love the track? Was it the music video? Or I'm imagining this was a pretty big hit because it's just so catchy and there's a bunch of performances here, some being on TV, so it's easy. Anyway, without further delay, Chieftains, but let's see what he did in Tokyo. Let's give it a go. I'll see you on that one. Thanks, guys. Hey, the podcast is over. What are you still doing here? Well, while you're here, like and subscribe. Thanks.